Hey there, LBT Squad. I'm your host, Alex Pop, and it's the month of the 4th of July. Okay, that was somewhat redundant. Well, it's the month of Independence Day. Yes, it's the month where Independence Day exists, but my birthday is more important. So it has now been 5 months since the initial release of The Land Before Time 14, Journey of the Brave, and I have seen it 7 times since, twice on DVD and 5 times on Netflix. More public views probably means more positive feedback. So now that I've seen it numerous times, I have changed my mind on a few things and I've made further observations. So this video is going to be the start of a 3-part series that will give my closing thoughts on the movie, and it'll be on how well it's looking for a potential future for the LBT franchise. And then after all that, we'll be moving on to other stuff like more Land Before Future videos and the rest of the movie reviews. So this first part is going to be listing the 10 biggest flaws of Journey of the Brave. And keep in mind, this doesn't mean that my opinion on the movie has changed drastically. I still really like it, but in giving my final thoughts on the movie, the biggest flaws should be brought up. So, here are the top 10 things wrong with Journey of the Brave. Number 10 is the conspicuous CGI. This is a very common complaint with all the sequels after Journey to Big Water, but I still stand by my word that it's distracting when you see a CG object in these movies that's clearly out of place. It's not much different than seeing a terrible CG effect in a live-action movie. When the U-Tyrannuses were squeezing their way through the tunnel, did you really believe that those falling rocks were part of the same environment? Or shortly after, when Littlefoot and his friends stop on the ledge and the shot pans out and down to reveal the cliff? Might have been a cool shot if it wasn't so obviously CG'd. Not to mention, when they pushed that tree down over the earth break, if you watch the roots closely, you'll probably think, that's one flexible tree. Now, I put this lowest on the list because there were other times where the CGI was an improvement over that of movies 10 through 13. In instances like the sandstorm, the ash and smoke from Fire Mountain, or anything inside the cave, it blended quite well with the traditional animation. Other than that, when the two animations clash, it still kind of takes you out of the moment. Number 9 is the lack of Chomper and Ruby. After the TV series, I, like most fans, was really looking forward to seeing the duo in the next full-length movie, but they're only in Journey of the Brave for 7 minutes. I counted. On one hand, I like that after the 8-year hiatus, the movie mainly focuses on the Gang of Five, but what bothers me is that Ruby and Chomper don't do a whole lot. They're just kind of along for the trip when the Grownups set out to find their kids. I kind of wish that the movie took place before the TV series and showed that this is what was happening at the time that Ruby and Chomper were welcome into the Great Valley, and there could have been a duo plotline going on. I guess I am glad that they weren't ignored entirely, but I really hope that they're not sidelined again in the 15th movie if it's ever made. Number 8 is the fact that the Grownups are still not very bright, especially when it comes to detecting when their kids might be sneaking out of the Great Valley. Grandma and Grandpa know that Littlefoot wants to go find his dad, so when they tell him that they need to wait, it might have been a good time to keep a close eye on him because, when the adults agree that they can't fix a problem, Littlefoot has had quite a long history of taking matters into his own hands. Feet. I mean, seriously, if I had a kid who had a habit of running away, I'd be calling Invisible Fence or something. Well, it's just something that they ought to take into account in the future. Number 7 is the song Hot and Stinky. Yeah, I know Aria Curzon said this was her favorite song in the movie, but I really didn't care for it. It kind of goes the TV series route in terms of songs, in that it's less a song and more a conversation set to music. It really wasn't needed either. It could have just gone like this. Littlefoot says that Spike has just given him an idea, and then it just cuts to them carrying the stinkweed through the Badlands, and the movie could have just stuck with the standard 3 songs. Also, I have to note, it's made abundantly clear that Littlefoot is desperate to try and get the others moving along as quickly as possible to find his dad, and yet he's okay with stopping to sing a silly song. I think his priorities are a little out of order. Just slightly. So simply put, the song stinks. Number 6 is those 2 occasions where our heroes are about to be discovered by sharp teeth, but then they get distracted by an animal that happens to be passing through. The first time, with that small mammal crossing the paths of the Eutyrannuses, I just kind of shrugged it off. But then with the second time, when the Carnotaurus gets distracted by that small herd of Archaeornithomimus, I was like, come on, quit copping out. Well, at least nobody got eaten. Except for maybe those poor little innocent creatures. Number 5 is Barry Bostwick as the voice of Grandpa Longneck, the only new voice actor I didn't like. Now, of course, I don't know the guy. I mean, for all I know, he could be a wonderful man. But I've said it before, and I still think so. He really just didn't fill the shoes of Kenneth Mars very well. Now, I understand that sometimes what's more important is to capture the spirit of a character rather than just sound exactly like the original actor. But even then, I just didn't see much of an attempt to capture that gentle and solemn spirit of Grandpa. I will say, the part where Grandpa and Littlefoot realize that Braun isn't with the herd, and Grandpa says, "I'm sure there's nothing to worry about," and at the end of the sentence, he almost goes into a whisper. That was the only time where I was like, okay, maybe I hear Grandpa's voice in there. But other than that, I have a feeling that Grandpa's new voice is going to take some getting used to. Number 4, unnecessary cartoon sound effects. Now, most of these sounds just went over my head on my first viewing, but once you notice them, they're really hard to overlook. I've got nothing against like a drop sound effect to up the silliness of Petrie, but then occasionally there's a cartoon sound added to just a simple action. For example, Sarah is just closing her eyes, that's all, and you hear that sound effect that's often used when a cartoon character is getting poked or getting his hair plucked out. It's really the only thing about the movie that's out of Land Before Time's style. Sure, there were a few cartoon sound effects in The Wisdom of Friends, but remember, we're moving past that movie. Number 3 is, of course, how rushed the ending is. It's just, Dad gets saved, a few compliments, they start to go home, the end. After Littlefoot and his friends went through so much trouble to find Braun, the payoff just wasn't big enough. I can think of several better ways to end it. Like, the movie flashes forward to the group arriving back home, maybe Littlefoot and Braun meet up with Shorty, and then maybe shows a montage of them all spending time together. If they wanted to take it a step further, it could have ended with Braun's herd leaving again, and after Littlefoot watches them depart, he turns back to see his friends, and then we get the closing narration as we see them walking away side by side, as we saw in the real ending. Now, it is possible that the reason for ending the movie so soon is because there's something planned for the next movie that needs to happen before Braun leaves the Great Valley again. Just an optimistic thought, but as it stands now, the ending is my third least favorite thing about the movie. Number 2 would be the pool scene during the kids' trip through the land of the Featherhead Sharpteeth. I put that on the list because it was kind of awkward. When the kids stop for a drink after coating themselves in stinkweed, Littlefoot tries to stop Spike from eating it, and while doing so, takes a tumble into the pool. And the others, who were watching what was happening, are like, "Littlefoot's going for a swim? I want to swim too." I mean, Petrie responding that way I could kind of understand, but even Sarah? As if that wasn't confusing enough, it takes them like half a minute for them to realize that swimming would wash off the stinkweed. And when they react to it happening, I was like, really? You're just now noticing? So ultimately, it was just a contrived way of getting the Sharptooth chase going. And the number 1 worst thing about Journey of the Brave is that there is none of James Horner's original musical score. This may not have bugged most people as much as it did me, but after the untimely death of Horner, I really have a hard time letting it fly. I mean, they couldn't have done him courtesy by just including one of his pieces? Maybe the If We Hold On Together music playing over the ending, or when Littlefoot and his friends reunite in the cave. Just that one particular track is what's needed to complete a movie that works as a tribute to the gang's friendship and harkens back to some of the plot points from the first movie. Music always plays a big part in setting the mood of a film, so the original score is all that's lacking in bringing us back into the world of the Land Before Time that we got such a kick out of as children. James Horner shall be missed, but he lives on through the music that he brought to this series and every other movie that he worked on. So Universal, please start using it again. So those are the top 10 things wrong with Journey of the Brave. Now that I've exhausted my biggest criticisms, I can talk more enthusiastically about it again. So I'll be back soon to give the top 10 greatest things about Journey of the Brave. That's a wrap for now. If you liked this and you want to see more, slap the like button, subscribe for future videos, and follow us on Facebook. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Alex Pop. Catch you later.